So first of all, I want to introduce you all to Dr. Marissa Biondi. Dr. Biondi is a senior research scientist at Toby, which is a company that develops eye tracking technology. That's so cool. Dr. Biondi earned her PhD in psychological and brain sciences from Texas A&M University. She also trains individuals and organizations about using this eye tracking technology, which we all know is a key part of Invention, helping others understand how it works and its benefits, which is something we're going to talk a lot about tonight. So Dr. Biondi, thank you so much for joining us. And thank you so much. We're going to have a bunch of questions for you tonight. And another one of our guests also sees the importance in communicating the power of new ideas through storytelling, including new inventions and innovations. I would say this is true of most teachers too, all teachers. Let's say all teachers. And I'm excited to also introduce our guest, Bunny Yen. Bunny worked for more than 20 years in the fashion industry and is the host of Left Side of Fashion, which is a series about sustainability in the fashion industry, including upcycling, which I'm not going to explain it. She's going to explain it for us. For those of you, so I think some of you probably heard of it already. And this might be our first guest who's Zooming with us from, I was going to be a weird teacher and have you guess, but no, we don't have time for that.
No, I'm doing the drumming. Go ahead.
Yeah, from Australia, where she lives. I mean, I guess that makes sense. It could have been on vacation, but so Bunny is joining us from Australia. Where in Australia are you?
I'm in Sydney, Australia, and it's 11 a.m. in the morning.
Oh man,
I'm talking to you in the future.
Wow, you got to tell us what tomorrow's like.
Oh, I thought you were going to ask for the lottery number. Okay, I can tell you tomorrow.
Oh, see, this is why I'm a broke teacher. I just want to know about history and what days are like. Okay, anyway, okay. Doug, I'm tossing it to you to introduce our other guests, our two students.
Sure. Yeah, thank you, Sari. We have two fantastic young inventors here with us tonight. I've been fortunate enough to work with them in my classroom in a bunch of different venues and avenues and different things that we do. First up, I'll introduce Garima Chuan. And Garima is currently the leader of our Invention Club at Hopkins High School here in Massachusetts. She has been in a couple of my classes, one of which she's still in right now on my roster, currently inventing a device for first responders, and was with me last year in sustainable engineering, where we did an assistive device project where actually that was 2 years ago when she was a freshman, I think. She's now a junior, and invented a device that she can talk about a little bit. And a fantastic person, and super excited about all the work that we've been doing in Invention Ed. She helped do a presentation last year to educators from around the country, actually from around the world last year at MIT, where Brenda Payne, who I see in the audience, was there, as well, maybe as a few other people out there. But a fantastic person, young inventor. And then also we have Riley Blair, who is a senior at our school. I've known Riley for a long time, first through robotics, and then got really into inventing and creating new solutions to problems. And Riley has participated in Invention Convention, just like Garima has. Riley and her teammates have gone out to the Henry Ford Museum 2 times. And this past year, they were the national champions at the Henry Ford Museum in Michigan with a project called the Dawsonite Diver, which is designed to remove carbon from the ocean. She was also a member of, several years back, Vicki, you had us on years ago during the pandemic, during the interesting days of the pandemic. Riley was part of a team that helped produce over 65,000 face shields during the pandemic for hospital workers and all sorts of different people. She was feverishly 3D printing at home, and she was a part of that. So those are our two young inventors that are here today. And Riley's taken all of my classes as a senior. She's done it all, I think, at this point. So she's done with me. She's ready to move on. And I will move it back over towards, let's see, to you, Sari. Yep.
Yeah, I think. Wow. I forgot all about, I mean, I've tried to block out a lot of those days of
The
the
face shields. Yeah.
face shields.
Yeah, we were there.
Yeah, I remember sitting there and just being in awe of all that work. So speaking of invention education, I think most people here have a general idea, if not a very specific idea about what it is, but just I'm all into defining our terms before we get into the discussion. So can you define invention education and then also share how you first got into teaching this topic?
Sure. And I'm going to use Brenda Payne can correct me if I'm wrong. How's that, Brenda? You're like an angel over my shoulder, right? Keep an eye on me here. I had the simplest way that I could explain what invention education is, it is slightly different than project-based learning, which has a lot of value. I think the slight difference is it adds a little bit more of a higher level thinking element to it, where you actually involve intellectual property. You start to think about getting deeper into the weeds of problem identification. The way that I could explain invention education is students actively identify and validate a problem. They aim to put to practice a novel device or invention that can serve beneficiaries. And while they're doing that, they bring in facets of intellectual property. You're bringing in patents typically. You know, in our shop, we do a lot of utility patents, and we have students that go on to file provisional patents. I know Riley has filed Dawsonite Diver and has a year-long provisional patent on that, and pursuing utility patent. But you don't have to do it officially through the USPTO. You can do it in your classroom. And also you can include other things like copyrights, trademarks, different things like that. So that's my long-winded answer. You're solving problems, you're putting to practice a novel device or invention that serves beneficiaries, and you're involving intellectual property. Is that really fair, Brenda?
That's Brenda, is that how you
Brenda might not, I think Brenda does know because she's been to Educator Voice Zooms, but you can just jump right on in.
Jump in.
I would never jump in and overstate anything over my buddy Doug there, but yeah, you continue, and if I jump in, I'll jump in. Okay,
but that's roughly, you know, that's as succinct as I can put it. It has nuances of intellectual property, and the big part is identifying problems, which you can do in project-based learning, but I find that you get a little deeper into it with invention ed. And typically they're things that the kids care a lot about because they're identifying problems that have some meaning to them. Anyway, that's my best.
Oh, I think rendition. That's perfect.
Yeah.
And Vicky took some notes in there. So do you want to speak with our student inventors? Oh, actually, no,
Yep, you're up first.
I'm gonna ask. So who wants to be our first student inventor to jump into the discussion tonight? Doug, do you want to nominate someone, or do you want someone to volunteer?
Sure, we'll put Karima on the spot. How's that?
All right, boom. So Karima, do I see you?
Yep.
There you go, Karima. Hi, Karima. Okay, so I get, how's it going? So my question for you is how did you first get involved with in invention and inventing things? And we'd love for you to share with us about the invention you're working on right now. And thanks so much for joining us tonight, Karima.
Yeah, it's a pleasure to be here. So I actually really enjoy telling the story because I think it's kind of ironic how I did get into invention. So originally I was introduced in my freshman year of high school, and I actually wanted to take an art elective that year, but there weren't enough spots. So immediately I was pushed into Mr. Scott's sustainable engineering course. And I remember walking in that day, I had no expectations. I really didn't want to be there. But as the year went on, I really started to fall in love with inventing. I thought it was so much fun, and I really look forward to that class. So that's how I got into it.
And tell us about your invention.
So in 2 years ago, my freshman year, was also entered into the Invention convention. My partner and I, we built an assistive device during our assistive devices unit, and this was called a trymometer. So this assistive device was meant to help those with visual and hearing impairments operate overheating appliances, since they do possess like a threat to them, especially for people who aren't able to see when there are alarms going off, whether there's like visual sound, there's visuals or there's lights, things like that. So we built a device that was able to prevent any dangers from occurring with overheating appliances, so they could take any necessary precautions and get themselves to safety.
Wow. And that was your freshman year? Is that what you
Yeah.
said?
Mhm.
Wow. So you stumbled into this class, not sure if you wanted to be there. And well, as fate would have it, you very much belong there, let alone wanted to be there. That's amazing. So I think I'm going to toss it to Doug now to speak to another. I mean, we have so many student vendors.
Sure. Those are always my favorite stories, when kids don't sign up for the class because it's like the only thing that fits their schedule, and somehow it works out. I have a student that ended up going down that path, similar story, and she ended up going to MIT to become an engineer, and then she went on to Harvard, and now she's working for SpaceX. So she was a real slacker, but she ended up, and Riley just talked to her the other day. That's Caitlin Sweeney, and she had done an invent team with me years ago. And my previous question I didn't answer, which was, that's how I got into it, through a Lemelson MIT invent team, which is a great program you can look up. So I'll turn it over to Riley now. I mean, just basically, if you could give us a rundown on what the Dawsonite diver is, and then also, how you first got into invention, and kind of what makes it special to you.
Yeah, of course. Thank you guys for having me here. I kind of got into invention because I did a lot of like building and stuff as a kid with like Legos and stuff, and then creative building with like not instructions. And then I started robotics in middle school, and I went on to robotics in high school. And then I went to like Mr. Scott's classes because I knew I liked engineering, but I didn't know that much about like invention. And so I really got into that idea of inventing stuff and like figuring out real world problems and finding real world solutions. So then Mr. Scott introduced me to the Invention convention, and I loved that because it's kind of fun to have like a little competition to do stuff based off of, but then also still get to do like stuff you really love to do. So that's kind of how I got really into it. And then the Dawsonite Diver is my most recent project. I worked on a team with my two best friends, and essentially what it does is it reverses ocean acidification by collecting carbon dioxide from the ocean and converting it into something called Dawsonite, which is a chemical compound that can be used as a fire retardant. And it does this whole process on like in this device. I actually have it right next to me, but it's in here, and this goes on the back of a boat, and the electrolysis, which converts the carbon dioxide to Dawsonite, is on the inside. And so that was kind of the whole project. We worked on that for like about a year. We did a lot of experiments to see what the best way to collect the most Dawsonite and collect the most carbon dioxide, and then also how to get it to actually work on the back of a boat and with electronics and all those different aspects. So that was really fun. And I think what makes inventing special to me is just like how I really got to find my passion. Like, this is my passion in life. I love it so much. This never feels like work for me. This is always like a break from like actual school work. This is what I enjoy doing. And because I got to do those classes and like figure out Invention convention and all these projects, I now know this is what I want to do for the rest of my life. So I think this is a great opportunity for students, definitely.
That's pretty good. That's a feel-good story right there. So two students that have become passionate about all this. And what's interesting is, for teachers out there, one of the things you'll hear is they signed up for a course or they didn't sign up for a course. It's an engineering course, but within it, I have several units of Invention Ed, and I talk to teachers all the time, and they'll say like, well, I don't know if I can teach a whole course on invention. Nobody ever said you had to. Vicky's got plenty of lessons and different things posted online, and there's a lot of resources out there through USPTO, Lemelson MIT, PBS. All those programs have resources available, and you can start small and build up. And I always subscribe to the theory that if I put a class out there that was just called Invention, that would be difficult to sell to my counselors. That'd be difficult to sell to colleges and applications and resumes and all that stuff. So we can teach engineering and we can involve invention in that. I always joke around and say it's like giving your dog a pill. You put a little peanut butter on it and down it goes. So that's how we get the Invention Ed in there. I'll turn it back over to Sari and let her take it away.
Yeah, well, I'm so inspired by your students, and I'm also really inspired by Bunny and Dr. Biondi. I want to start with Bunny. So, Bunny, you yourself are an innovator, and I mentioned earlier in the introduction that you work in upcycling and sustainability as well as storytelling. Can you share with all of us what exactly is upcycling, and talk to us a bit about how the power of storytelling lies behind many of the lessons of invention and innovation we will hear about tonight. So first, tell us about upcycling, and then tell us why storytelling is so important in the invention process.
So one question at a time. First tell you about upcycling. So we all know what recycling is. You're taking that material and you break down to its base form, the cheapest form. So plastic into pallets, paper into pulp. Upcycling, you take whatever it is and trying to find its characteristics and build into something of a higher value. Example, Dr. Scrubs, something that we all know what it is. But when it comes to manufacture process, when the clothes are new, it's of a different color or maybe a wrong stitch, the whole batch can be thrown out because that's not what the client wants. So at one point, I was able to rescue a lot of these Dr. Scrub that are new and turn them into bags. So the whole thing is a shirt.
Oh, that's so cool.
So there is absolutely no waist stitching on that, nothing cut off because the sleeve becomes reinforcement for the strap. The strap is from the pants. And now you have a bag that's machine washable, that's sturdy, and it's foldable. So it adds more character to whatever the things you design and make whatever thing you design better. And example for this is recycled aluminum windows from Hong Kong from a company. So because I'm allergic to metal, wearing this, it's lightweight and it won't set off any machine. But that's what upcycling is. You study the material or whatever the made product's characteristics and how to make a cooler product from that of an upper value. So what I do with storytelling is most of us, especially in education and sustainability, we feel like we need to share what make us passionate about the subject and telling how it's like good for Earth, it's good for you. However, we forget that most people are not in your subject. That is not something they're passionate about. You need to find whatever that product, what kind of solution and what kind of problem is it solving for that person. And we all have very, very small window of attention span. So what we're essentially doing on storytelling, you're just grabbing the curiosity, grabbing the attention. You don't have to tell them the whole story. So edit down process is the key. So instead of showing you, that bag is sustainable, I'm telling you it's transformed from a shirt. Like, ooh, then when you want to hear more about it, then the icing on the cake is it's also sustainable because now you're preventing that shirt from the landfill. So now you also feel good. But the very first purpose is you need a bag that for your purpose. This one's especially good for parents because like when you have a mom bag with kids, you have all different odd shaped things into stuff in it. So the black panel on the side is actually the shirt. It was like that before, but it stretches so you can shove whatever odd shaped things in there. and it is fine.
Wow, that's so
Yeah.
cool. And something I forgot to ask you about before we move on to Dr. Biondi is tell us about Left Side, your program.
So Left Side of Fashion, I started because there's so many story in fashion that's left untold and material that's left behind. It has nothing to do with politics, left side, right side. I have been asked before. I'm not involved in that because I like to talk about things that I know more of. So this is an ongoing thing. I interview students, inventors, somebody who is taking bacteria and use it as a dye because bacteria colony, depending on how thick they grow, change the color of the fabric. So you don't have to use a dye. And I have a like skit type of storytelling thing. It's all comedy to tell you all the cool things about fashion and tell you the innovator and what upcycling alternative are now. So example, I'll tell you a cute one. You know how men's associate with pants, women associate with skirts?
Yeah.
The reason of that is horses. Because before tunic, wrap, kilt, these are all skirts. Men and women wear them because it's just comfortable.
Oh yeah.
And give you very breathable options. Not until men had to have to ride horses to battle. There's a chafing problem with the skirts. So pants was invented. And when it was invented, it was 2 legs tied with a belt. So it's 2 pieces. That's why the singular is plural for pants. It's pair of pants, like pair of socks.
Oh my God. What? I've lived this
Isn't
whole
it funny?
time. Wait, did you all know this? Did everyone know this but me?
No,
No, but I was just
it'll be
saying
rare.
in the chat that we have a lot of social studies history
Yeah.
educators here tonight who really nerd out over the history of invention. So we're loving this right now,
This
Bunny.
is so cool. I'm going to tell all my students this tomorrow, apropos of nothing. Just by the way, that's so cool. Thank you
And
so
like tradition of wedding dress is black. And high heels come from fish merchants because they don't want to step in fish guts when they sell stuff. So our history of what our perception of what tradition is very fun because it all started with a rebel. So everybody's like, oh, we can't go, against tradition, especially in teaching wise too. That tradition is written by somebody who is a rebel who started first.
And also all the fashions that are considered feminine were anyway. Well, this is a whole other.
Makeup, hair, these all like
powdered wigs.
Yeah. Powder wigs.
Wow, cool. Thank you so
that's
much.
what I talk about in my series. And currently I just got signed with a production house to make that into a longer online series because it's already won me Women in Film Television Award. So that's pretty cool. So if anybody want to, give me more topics and want to know more about and even want to be involved, let me know. I put my LinkedIn in the chat.
Thank you so much. I'll definitely be hitting you up with some questions. So let's move on to our. Both of our all of our guests are so impressive, and Dr. Biondi. So I mentioned briefly in the introduction that you work as a senior researcher in eye scanning technology, and so my first question is like, what got you involved in that? Like, what was the genesis? What was the origin story of you deciding to make that your life's work? And then can you tell us more about it?
Yeah, be happy to. So also I'm very inspired by our guest stories so far. So I'm very honored to be here. Thank you very much. Tobii as a company has been around for over 20 years. And I actually got into eye tracking, much like stories I've heard. I was a student and I was working in a research lab studying infant behavior. There are lots of ways that you can study infants, what they know about the world, but you can't give them a survey and expect them to fill it out and get any kind of meaningful information. But you can measure where they look, and that will give you some insights into how their brain is processing what they know about the world, what they remember. So we had an eye tracker in my research lab when I was a sophomore in college 15 years ago. I kept doing eye tracking research throughout graduate school, and the company offered me a job 7 years ago when I graduated. So I went from being a student to PhD program and being an educator to now working for the company and helping educate in slightly different ways. So not exactly what you all do, but education is such an important part of your life and of actually what I do, even though I do it for a company now, helping people understand what eye tracking technology does and how they can use it and apply it to their own work. So actually I have a video because I think it will be helpful for people to see exactly what it is. Here's an example. So imagine you could see through the eyes of your students as they're going through a task. Start the videos. Oh, there we go. So the red dot on the screen is where this child is looking as he's putting together this Lego set. This is actually the same kid. His name is Finn. He's the son of one of our former colleagues, putting together a Lego set at age 5, and you can see exactly where he's looking. I don't have the volume up, but you can also hear his audio. He's talking to himself and narrating which pieces he's looking for. So you can see where he looks, how long it takes him to find certain pieces. When you look at the 12-year-old video, he's super fast. He knows exactly what he's doing. So you can see through his eyes how he's processing and solving this problem. And this is what eye track. This is just one example of hundreds of the type of insights that eye tracking can give you.
That is so cool. That video helps me understand it better. Wow. Huh, that's fascinating. Thank you so much for sharing that with us. So I think we could go, I want to ask so many more questions, but looks like we only have 30 minutes left. I'm going to toss it to Doug, and then I think we want to open it to the group, and I'm sure we have so many inspiring teachers here tonight with some stories for us and some questions.
Yeah, that was super impressive work by all our inventors, and it's interesting. I just enjoyed watching that video by Dr. Biondi. It reminded me of the old time and motion studies that they used to do back in the early 1900s to maximize efficiency in production. But it was interesting to watch that. You know, when we talk about invention education, it's oftentimes about solving problems. And I think what the important thing here is kind of the story behind the problem. So, you know, for each inventor that's here tonight, you heard about some of the stories behind why they invented something, you know, from removing carbon dioxide from the ocean to, you know, helping children with their vision tracking. And then you had Garima with assisted devices. Everybody was you know, kind of tied into beneficiaries, and Bunny with you know, some of the logic and reasoning behind some of the fashion, and then taking items and upcycling them. There's a story behind all this, and I think that's what really matters to students when they get involved with invention education. Is it has so much more meaning. You know, even right now, Garima, you're on here with us. We're doing a project right now with, are you doing police or fire? Refresh my memory.
Our class is doing police this year.
You're doing police, so you're in my period 6. So period 6, they're inventing for police. And what are you inventing for the police officers currently? Well, I should say, what's the problem?
So,
the problem you're trying to solve first, I should always ask.
Right. So we were given the opportunity to actually meet with police officers and interview them so we could talk with them about problems that they experience with their equipment that they have. And one of the problems that our police officer said that he was struggling with was the earpieces that police officers use. Often when they're moving around, they're running, they're being very active. So these earpieces tend to fall out of their ears, and that can cause a hindrance when they're performing any activities that they're supposed to, and overall just slows them down. And as well as this, they carry flashlights with them at all times during night shifts. And the police officers talking about how without these flashlights during night shifts, they basically can't do anything else since they need it on them at all times. But what it does is it decreases their mobility since they have one hand on the flashlight and they can only use the other hand to perform any necessary tasks. So the invention that we decided to create was an ear cuff that attaches onto the ear, and it prevents the earpiece from falling out. And as well as that, it has a light box on top that can shine not only LED light, but also UV light, which can assist them during house searches. UV light is used for finding fingerprints. It's used a lot in criminology and forensic science. So, and as well with the lights being up here, their hands are free, so they have more mobility. They can perform tasks that they need to.
Thank you. And you just demonstrated to me and everyone here why these things mean more to you, because you met with beneficiaries, you took the time to explore their worlds, and you began to understand a problem. You focused in on it, you validated the problem, and then you sought out to invent a solution to the problem that they had been experiencing. And then the follow-up to that will be, we'll have the police officers come into class and work with the students to help evaluate the projects and give some feedback. And that's also, Vicki, that's and Luke, that's a lesson plan in the PBS lesson plans. I sent the link out earlier. That's one of the ones that we wrote a few years ago. So there's more meaning, I think, when the kids get involved in that process. And, you know, it just creates a fun environment, a place where students want to come in and learn and do more. It has a little more, I always joke, I always use this line for people that have met me before, but I had a kid years ago, this kid, Timmy Sakharov, and I liked his line. He said, you know, the things that we did in your shop were the most real fake things I did in high school. And I said, there you go, buddy. So it adds an element of reality and fun and excitement, more so than just me telling them what a problem is and here, everybody, we're going to do the same thing. So that's kind of how I'd like to wrap up that and why it's important.
That's really interesting, and it personalizes it. So you're not just randomly coming up with some invention. You have these beneficiaries, so it's personal, and you're actually helping them. You're being of service to the community. That's what I think is really special.
And Jorge from USPTO always gets upset with me because I tease him, but he was a big fan of the egg drop. And yes, you can invent doing the egg drop, you can. But by the time students reach me, they've usually done about 3 egg drops and about 3 different bridge designs. So by the time they get to me, it's like, we got to do something a little different here.
Yeah.
So we try to approach it a little differently.
That's cool. So I wanted to throw the figurative mic over to Tracy Cooper. Would love for you to share your characterization of it. You're on mute right now.
So yeah, I was listening to Doug talk about the difference. The definition that he gave was really spot on. I did about 17 years in Nashville public schools, and project-based learning was a really big thing. I took several students to competitions, and but we were working on something kind of simplistic. But I really loved Bonnie's story about the storytelling part. I'm a social studies teacher, so what we did in Nashville with project-based was we created a game. What we're doing here I'm in Jackson, Tennessee, near Memphis, with Invent Ed. We are also creating a game, but with an element to bring in community involvement. And thinking about the stories that I'm a social studies teacher, and I teach African American studies. So we're creating a game that will educate the community on the newly established Juneteenth holiday. So to me, that sounds really, you guys are building robots and really important things, but the storytelling element and what I am experiencing with my first go round with Invent Ed Fellows, I'm excited about the stories that we're sharing about how did you not know this? And oh, I'm glad we learned this. I'm glad we looked this up. And then the intellectual property part. That's a big deal for me personally. I mean, I've been an educator for 23 years, but I'm an independent artist. And I've been like doing spoken word, doing albums and trying to understand copyright, patents, trademarks. So as I take this journey with my students, we are uncovering so much about how do you take ownership of an idea that you take from your head, put it on paper, and take it to the public. So I really enjoy the comments of Doug, and I enjoy Bonnie's story, and I'm very excited about where we are. We're getting ready to move into the manufacturing phase. Our game is called The Pursuit of Freedom. So it's sort of played like Trivial Pursuit. But it's kind of built like a Monopoly game, and it's just a Black History trivia game. But we're launching it at a Black History program that's going to be when students are designing flyers and marketing material. There's like a little chili cook-off to go with it to bring the crowd in. So we can get people in the community to come and play this board game that our students just played with the mock version. The prototype has been complete, and we have a mock version that we actually demonstrated with in the classroom. So now we're moving to the manufacturing stage where we're having those conversations. Like out of 4 different game manufacturers, who's the best one? You know, it's the best price. And what about this and about that? So I'm enjoying our experience right now with this Invention education. And I'm very happy to be a part of this group. Some awesome people are here. Absolutely.
That's awesome, Tracy. And
Oh my gosh, Tracy, I'm coming.
and your story is
Keep that
amazing.
chili. Yes.
Yeah, and the story is amazing, and creating the game. That is the original inventor of Monopoly.
Yeah, I was just going to say that. And
But
there's
she got ripped off.
yeah, there's a great PBS American Experience
Oh.
about that.
She got zapped, and she was not the documented inventor and did not benefit from all the monetary gains of the real money Monopoly made.
Because she didn't know about the intellectual property part. She had to have that lesson.
So it's important. I think it's a phase or a facet of engineering or inventing where, you know, young people need to understand that you can't just throw your ideas out there if you're sincerely interested in commercializing it at some point.
Right.
So
yeah. So Dr. Biondi, so I'm curious as to when you first got into this field of inventing and innovating. Did you have a teacher like Tracy or Doug, or did it happen later in your academic career?
Yeah, I had the professor whose lab I worked in was very, very supportive. You know, innovation at its heart is science, and science at its heart is curiosity. So I think, I mean, obviously what you all are doing is following your curiosity to a problem that you're solving, but science is, to me, such a core part of that. So even just being curious about the developing human brain when I was in undergraduate and graduate school versus now, where I get to work with all sorts of people solving real world problems. We have clients who use our eye trackers to help kids read, or help kids on the autism spectrum get diagnosed quicker and easier and earlier, and help diagnose people with traumatic brain injury. And it's really a joy to help be that person and help support those people with those amazing ideas and scientific discoveries, make those inventions come true. But there's always one person or a couple people in our past that were there to support us, especially if you know there's moments where you didn't even believe in yourself. So it's great to see the educators here, and Doug, you know, you being so supportive of your students. I wish I had a teacher like you when I was in high school.
I know.
you may regret that. The kids will tell you I run a tight ship, but it all works out in the end. How's that?
I wanted to ask one more question of Dr. Biondi, and then I want to ask it of Bunny as well. And it has to do with something that I'm sure that Doug and Tracy do in their classrooms a lot in this process, which is helping. I mean, it's not, we're making it seem like it's sunshine and rainbows, but a big part of the process is facing challenges, right? And facing little bumps or big bumps on the road in the process. And so, Dr. Biondi, I'm not sure, would you be comfortable sharing how you've dealt with a challenge in the process of inventing? And then I'd love for Bunny to share as well.
I was actually curious about that from the students because I see a lot of resilience, especially being in high school. So I think I'm going to punt that question because I really want to hear what they have to say.
I can reply to this one if you want. Yeah, there are definitely a lot of challenges because we don't have we don't have the same education as some like adults. We're still only in like for when I started the Dawson Diver stuff, were only in sophomore year, like it was that summer, so we had no chemistry knowledge, and this is a big chemistry-based project, so we knew it was going to be a lot of difficulty taking this on, but a big part of it is just asking for help. We asked our chemistry teachers for help. We asked Mr. Scott for help with various like building problems. It's just really like make sure to using like your resources and anybody who's willing to help, because all the teachers at our school want us to help, want to help, want us to succeed. So I think that's a main part of it, how we definitely got over a lot of those challenges.
But have them sign an NDA, right?
Yeah, exactly.
All right.
Bunny, what about you? Do you also want to toss it to the student inventors, or do you have a particular story or piece of advice for everyone here today about facing a challenge?
So from graduating Patterson, New Jersey, which is all Black and all Hispanic school with just one Asian in the whole class, we lack resources for sure. And what Riley said is perfect. Ask for help. And I really think a lot of these journeys, to have these challenges, is what the fun part about inventing, to have this limitation. You have to find creative solution to that. And you'd be surprised how many people in different companies, like your community, would willing to talk to you. So if you want to learn more about, like police, go to police station, firemen, doctors, nurses, find your channel. I have noticed, because during COVID, we've been online so much that students tend to become quieter. I think this is a nice social push to go, you know what, you don't know that solution, ask somebody. Like it's scary, sure, but it needs a little by little to build up that social aspect of our interaction that we love so much pre-COVID.
I love that's a really good point, that even if you might consider yourself an introvert, it does force you to get outside of your shell because of the whole beneficiary piece of it, right, Doug?
I think so. Yeah, it definitely puts you in a position where you have to communicate with people. You have to engage in some empathy and start to understand what other people are going through in order to truly create something that helps them and doesn't harm them. It's always help and not harm. And part of the challenge for anyone that's involved in inventing, I always say to the kids in the shop, they get frustrated with things that don't work. And I always say that, 90% of the time, the stuff we're working on doesn't work. So, you get to that point where it finally does start to work, and then it becomes more consistent. Eventually you solve the problem, and then you're done with that and you move on to the next one. And it's just this constant cycle of identifying problems and solving them. And the truth is that if you can learn how to do that, that skill set can transfer to anything you engage in. You don't have to become, an engineer. You don't have to become I never went to school for engineering. I was a business teacher when I started. I taught Microsoft Office and started building underwater robots, and people were like, wow, do more of that. But these are transferable skills to anything you want to do in life. And I always joke, like kids will say, well, I don't know if I want to be an engineer. And I said, well, it's going to be like 9 o'clock on a Sunday night, and your kitchen sink or your toilet's going to be leaking. You can't get a plumber. You'll become an engineer or an inventor real quick. You're going to figure out how to solve problems in a hurry, or it's going to cost you like $1,000 to get somebody on a Sunday night. So you learn to solve problems. So we're trying to do that with young people, and Invention Ed is a great way to do that.
It sounds like it. And speaking of Invention Ed, which is the whole topic of tonight, but I was trying to come up with a good segue to bring in Luke to tell us about the new Invention Education Fellowship, because I'm sure a lot of teachers in the room tonight who are not a part of this want to be. So can you tell us about that program, Luke? And good to see you, Luke. I was thinking
Yeah.
it was
Well,
about a year ago.
I had to come out for this one for sure.
Yeah, I haven't seen you in a while. I think we sat together in real life at the NCSS last year. I can't believe a whole year has passed.
That's really hard to believe.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's good to see you, and it's good to see you all. I had to come out tonight for sure, and I'm happy to have a chance just to very briefly, because I know we're kind of close to the end, describe our fellowship. We've been running well, first, just real quick about me. I work with Vic at NewsHour Classroom. I'm an editor, I'm a project manager, and I've been helping to coordinate the fellowship, NewsHour Invention Fellowship this past 2 years. We're in our second year now, and we are bringing teachers, many of whom are here tonight, which is great to see, from all around the country, all different subject areas. This year we have about 50% social studies teachers, 50%, I'm sorry, humanities teachers, including social studies teachers, English teachers, and 50% STEM teachers. And we are working on developing lesson plans, refining our curricula, especially for teachers that are new to this, and developing resources for teachers in a whole range of grade levels, whole range of subject areas that we're going to be rolling out. We have a lot of content already, but we'll be rolling out more throughout the year. And we really want to invite teachers from any background to try out Invention Education. You've heard from students tonight and from Doug and some teachers who do this throughout the year as part of engineering curriculum, but you don't have to do that. We have teachers as well, like Tracy, who's part of our fellowship this year, who's doing something extremely amazing and creative with the game that she's inventing. And so we're really opening up this idea of invention to applying the process to all kinds of creative solutions to problems. It doesn't have to be a Dawsonite diver. I remember seeing that at Henry Ford last year. That is so cool. It doesn't have to be high tech. It can be creative in other ways. But if you are interested in sort of what you're doing, I can put my email address here and I can give you more information. But you'll see throughout the chat, there's links to our curriculum. We're going to be launching a whole new page on our website soon. That's a little slicker and hopefully have more resources for you all. So please do check it out, and we'll include more links again in the chat just so you can get them. But yeah, that's the fellowship. I don't know if we're going to be able to do it next year, but we're definitely going to have resources that come out of it that any teacher can use.
Sari?
Yes.
I'll just make a quick comment.
Yeah, sure. Oh yeah, I didn't see you. I'm getting old. I'm like, where's that sound coming
Where
from?
is that voice?
Hi, Brenda.
I will just say I got involved in Invention Education in the 80s when I had a 3rd, 4th grade class that was so diverse with 60 kids, part of a gifted program that was a magnet. And I had 3, 4, and the 3rd grade wasn't a magnet. So it was every other learning style under the sun. And the 4th grade were parents who thought their kids should be considered gifted. And so all of that put together, I was looking for a program and found something called Invent America way back when. That didn't have much resource. It didn't have many lessons. It didn't have resource. We developed lessons for it and we introduced it. And what we found is no matter who the students were, and starting at kindergarten and going all the way up through 12th grade, I can speak to it for all those levels. Kids who are, as Doug was saying, are not just given a problem, but asked to identify a problem in their own lives, their families, the community, the world, are far more compelled to find a solution. And the whole way of creating an invention is so much that kids can learn from kindergarten on. I've got a huge amount of lessons in the California Invention Convention. I'll just put I'll put my email there and you can contact us. It just became password protected, but I will give you the password so that you can use them. And there's lessons, 30 lessons per grade band that you can use, and you can call me or talk to me, and I'm happy to provide whatever you might need to get you going in it. So just wanted to mention that.
Thank you, Brenda. Okay, I wanted to share really quickly we only have, I don't have much time. I'm gonna give 30 seconds. And I think if Vicky lets me, I'm gonna put this on I always do this to you, Vicky. I like say things, then you have to do it because I put it in the recording. But I have this, I was trying to think about ways that I've brought an invention or something connected to it to my history class. And I was like, wait, I do that because I guess it was about like, been teaching for so long, it could have been a decade ago or 7 years ago. I was getting to the unit, the lessons on the market revolution. And I thought, oh, it gets so boring, just kind of like having them learn about each invention. So I set up this lesson and I called it mid 19th century Shark Tank Market Revolution Edition. And so kids are divided into 8 groups, and they basically represent either Erie Canal, railroad, steamboat, telegraph, factory system, textile mill, interchangeable parts, and the steel plow. And then there's like 4 kids who pretend to be the current Shark Tank judges, and then they basically have to go through. It gets really complex. I don't have enough time to explain it, but it's my teaser to share with you that there are ways to bring in the idea of invention. Even if I'm not having kids invent stuff, I'm having them embody the historical figures and have them think through it that way. So that's one way that I have brought an element of invention. I might not be exactly what Doug's doing in his classroom, but it's connected, and there's ways to think about it for your classes, even if it's not directly. So that being said, I'll share that with everyone. It was quite a hit with all the APUS history teachers. That was my contribution to the Facebook group years ago. But that's how I try to bring an invention into my class. And I just wanted to get some before I'm running out of time, and I'm very mindful of everyone's evening. So it looks like it's time to wrap up. I agree. It was a really inspiring session tonight. And I just wanted to go around and get one or like a sentence from each one of you, just a takeaway from the night. So I'm going to toss it to my co-host, and then I'm going to let him ask the next person. So Doug, what's your biggest takeaway for the night?
My biggest takeaway was it reminded, I was really actually inspired by Tracy because it brought me back to my middle school when I had to invent a game, and it actually was on the Holocaust. And I remember that lesson. I don't remember a lot of things, but I remember that. So I'm sure your students will remember it. So brought me back a ways. You want me to pass it along?
Yeah, pass it along. It's a new game.
I'm gonna go along in my grid here. Vicky, you're next on the squares here in the Brady Bunch. There you go.
Oh, I'm so glad. So first of all, I just want to say that I'm wearing the new Invention t-shirt. I just put here's the link again. You have to fill this out because we have these really fun Invention PBS NewsHour Invention Education t-shirts. Oh no, you can't. It's like blurry. I have that blur thing on. Fill this out, and because we want to send you a t-shirt because you came tonight, and we have all different sizes, and they're so cute and awesome. And if I can figure out the blur thing, that would be better, but just trust me, they're cool. Sari knows, and other folks, in the past when I wear the t-shirt, I stand up and model it, and it's just really unnecessary. No one needs.
Love it.
It's not. So
I was waiting for that all night. I thought,
I know you were. That's so
almost 8
sad.
o'clock. It's almost time to model the shirt.
You guys, I can't do it to you. But no, I will pass it to her. Let's go to Dr. Biondi, and then to Bunny, and then to our 2 student inventors.
Yeah,
in that order, just about final thoughts that you just want to share about invention ed, innovation, and any final thoughts?
Just keep following your curiosity, everybody. And I have a lot of hope for the future with kids like Riley and Garima. Thank you for for leading the way, and it gives me a lot of hope.
Bunny.
I would say enjoy failure, enjoy that something might not work the way you wanted to, and ride with it. Because a lot of time, cool inventions and awesome experience, as Garima was said, went to the class that she didn't want to, will come from that. It's all about that journey. There's no right or wrong choices when it comes to inventions.
I love that. How about Riley?
I think this, sorry, I think this whole experience just showed me there's a lot more like exciting aspects of invention that still are yet to come for me, and I want to keep doing it, and I'm excited.
And then Garima.
Yeah, mine's also similar to Riley's. I think this is a really great experience, and especially hearing from people who are in the engineering field or invention field, I think it was really inspirational. So I'm excited to see what my future holds.
And my takeaway is that I just love how every time we have a session, we shine a light on the magical work of teachers and our students and our collaboration. So thank you so much for everyone tonight. I'm super inspired. I want to see Tracy's game. I want to see Garima's invention. Dr. Biondi, I need to search you up and learn more. And Bunny, I just already found you on Instagram, and Riley, I'm excited about your invention too. And Doug, I think I need to come to your classroom one day.
Anytime. We'll put you to work.
All right, I'm in. I don't know how to fix my sink, so you inspired me right there.
You'll learn.
Okay, good.